The moment she said his sister's wedding would be perfect, and quietly wondered when her turn would come, something inside the single father cracked open, not with pain, but with a terrifying kind of hope that made his chest feel too small for his heart. The sun was high, the world bright and ordinary, yet his life felt like it was standing on the edge of something extraordinary, something he had promised himself he would never risk again. He had survived loss, responsibility, and years of quiet sacrifice, but this simple, innocent moment threatened to undo all of it in the most beautiful way. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that arrives when you least expect it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Spark. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reaching hearts that need them. His name was Ariz Khalid, a man who had learned to carry the weight of the world without letting it show on his face. He had become a father at 29 and a widower at 31 when a sudden illness took his wife and left him alone with a newborn son and a grief so heavy it felt like gravity itself had changed. Life after that had not paused to let him mourn. It demanded diapers, sleepless nights, medical bills, and a strength he did not know he possessed. Over the years, Ariz learned how to pack away his pain neatly, folding it into the corners of his days so his son, Zion, would only ever see safety, warmth, and love. By 38, Ariz was known as reliable, calm, and emotionally guarded. He worked as an event logistics coordinator, the kind of job that required precision and patience, traits he had mastered out of necessity. It was through this work that he met Samira Qureshi, a floral stylist with a quiet laugh and eyes that noticed everything. Their connection did not begin with sparks or dramatic moments. It began with shared schedules, mutual respect, and small acts of consideration under the harsh midday sun. While setting up events, Samira admired how Ariz treated everyone with dignity, from interns to clients, and Ariz noticed how Samira brought beauty into spaces without needing recognition. They spent long days arranging chairs, draping fabric, and solving last-minute crises, all while learning each other's silences. Ariz never intended to let it become more than that. He believed love was a door he had closed forever, not because he did not want it, but because he feared what it could take away. When Ariz was assigned to manage his younger sister Farah's wedding, it felt symbolic in ways he tried not to think about. The event was scheduled for a bright spring day, full of pastel colors and open-air arrangements, all bathed in honest daylight. Samira was hired independently by Farah, and neither of them mentioned how strange and intimate it felt to be working together on something so personal. They moved through the planning stages carefully, sharing lunches under the sun, checking details and exchanging glances that lingered a second longer than necessary. Zion met Samira one afternoon when Ariz had no childcare and brought him along to a site visit. The boy, curious and observant, took to her instantly, offering her a dandelion he had picked from the grass. Samira accepted it as if it were the rarest flower in the world, and Ariz felt something soften in him that had been rigid for years. As the wedding day approached, Ariz found himself imagining things he had forbidden himself from imagining. He pictured Samira sitting beside him at family gatherings, Zion falling asleep against her shoulder, and mornings that felt less heavy. These thoughts scared him more than grief ever had. He told himself that Samira deserved someone unburdened by loss, someone who could love without fear. Yet every day, under the open sky and relentless sun, she was there, patient and kind, never asking him for more than he could give. On the afternoon before the wedding, as they stood reviewing the final setup in the garden venue, Samira spoke softly about how perfect Farah's wedding would be. She spoke of the joy, the symbolism, the way two lives could intertwine in front of everyone they loved. Then, almost as an afterthought, she wondered aloud when it might be her turn someday. There was no pressure in her words, no expectation placed on him. It was simply a thought shared in the safety of the moment. Aris felt his heart stumble. He smiled, nodded, and said nothing, but inside him a decision was forming, slow and steady like dawn. That night, Aris did not sleep. He sat at the kitchen table while Zion slept in the next room, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. He thought about the years he had spent surviving instead of living. He thought about how love had once been taken from him without warning, and how that loss had taught him to fear joy. But he also thought about how Samira had never tried to replace anything in his life. She had simply added light to it. By the time the sun rose, Aris knew what he had to do. Fear had guided him long enough. It was time to let hope take the lead. The wedding day arrived wrapped in warmth and clear skies. Everything unfolded as planned, the ceremony glowing in daylight, laughter drifting through the garden like music. Farah looked radiant, their parents emotional, and Aris felt pride swell in his chest. Samira moved gracefully among the guests, her work flawless, her smile genuine. Zion held Aris's hand, dressed in a tiny suit, his eyes wide with wonder. Throughout the day, Aris felt a calm determination settle over him. He had arranged one last detail, something no one else knew about. As the reception shifted into the afternoon, Aris guided Samira toward a quieter corner of the garden under the pretense of checking arrangements.